Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Money, Real Business podcast. I'm Lauren, and today we have Gerald on the show, who's selling an Amazon FBA business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Hey Gerald, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey Lauren, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. I'm really excited to have you on the show, and I can't wait to learn more about your business. But before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of the business. This is an Amazon FBA business created in August 2015 in the kitchenware and home niches. The average revenue for the business is $59,763 per month, and it makes an average of $8,970 per month in net profit. The assets included with the business are an Amazon Seller Central account with 12 SKUs, a primary domain and all site content and files, 2 secondary domains and all site content and files, supplier contracts and relationships, a WooCommerce account, a Facebook social media account, and trademarks and patents. Please note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 60243 to learn more about this business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So, Gerald, now that we know more about the business, let's hear from you. Can you fill us in on your background in starting and running online businesses?
Well, actually, I didn't start with e-commerce. I have a software engineer background, and I was working for an American corporation back in 2015 and decided to lay me off. And American style, like you get contacted at 8 a.m. by HR, and at 8:15 you have your box on the street, and you're sore. So that was a bit brutal. And decided, the next time I get fired, I will fire myself. And that's how I started. I was trying to create a business. So, I looked at consulting, blog, content creations, those kind of things. And then at the end of 2015, I heard about private label and Amazon FBA. And back then was a podcaster called Scott Walker. Anyway, so that got me started on Amazon and private label back at the end of 2015. So I had that first sale on Amazon. So it took me 6 months to launch the product. My first sale was in April 2016. And then after that, it's history. Then I'm running now the business essentially for 6 years now.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a great story. Very empowering to become your own boss. What inspired you to sell these particular products?
I like to cook. I'm in food, and back then, especially, that was the recommendation, do something that you know or that you enjoy because it's easier. I think it's still a good advice, to be honest, because it's easier to stuck to it. And then you have a better understanding of your niche, essentially, of your audience. And so that's how I started. I enjoy the product. I use the product. I still use it. I actually use my own product, to be honest. So that helps. I can understand the needs in that sense. So that's how I started the first product. That's how I increased also the offering, just by offering products I'm using on a daily basis.
Great. Yeah, that's a perfect way to know that it's a useful product if you use it yourself. Has Amazon FBA always been your primary income stream, or have you ever branched out into other e-commerce sales channels?
No, Amazon is like a drug. You always try to branch out because sometimes you get mad at Amazon for whatever they do, but it's just so easy to get traffic from Amazon, to launch products, to manage the logistics, the inventory. I'm just selling on Amazon. I have my own website. I mean, it's functional. I made some sales on that website because there's some deals on the website a bit better than Amazon. I get some sales like that, but most of the traffic and the sales come from Amazon, and never really could branch out successfully.
Okay, great. Yeah. I mean, it certainly sounds like you're passionate about the business. You firmly believe in your products. Why are you selling the business now?
Well, I feel like reaching is the maximum of my skills, the maximum of my incompetency. As I said, I have a software background. I'm not really good at marketing. And the realization that I reached the maximum I could do was, I had 2 warnings, essentially. The first one was that I launched another brand, a side brand, secondary brand, which is not included in that sale, by the way. And that brand, it worked, but profits are not very good and was not very a success. And the other thing is that I created the patented product, patented in the US and the UK, for the main brand this time. And I was not able to launch it either because I don't have the skill. It's not my thing. I'm more on the engineering side. So that's why I realized, okay, yeah, you're not doing the business any favor by hanging on to it. And so that's the main reason, really. Like, I feel like I'm constraining the business. I'm holding it, and it would have a better life if I hand it over to someone more competent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like you've had a lot of ups and downs with the business. What would you say was your biggest win since starting this business?
I would say the main win was essentially the way I was able to develop the business in Europe, because I started the first sales almost the same year I started in 2016. And Europe, especially for American audience, it looks like it's a bit difficult, it's complicated, which is not, it's an illusion, because of the VAT. So the reality is Europe is actually a good market. And I was able, to develop a good team, my processes, how to get my inventory around. And I will talk probably about that later. So Europe launching and developing the products in Europe was really my main win, because right now, honestly, if I have to launch more products, I will keep on doing it in Europe. Margins are better, competition is limited. It's just easier. And everybody's going to the US, but it's great. More space for us in Europe.
Yeah, fantastic point. I think there's definitely a lot of untapped potential in Europe. On the flip side of the coin, what would you say was your biggest setback or challenge with this business?
Yeah, we talked a bit before, with that brand that I launched and that didn't work out very well. And the other one, the patented product, which I failed at launch. I mean, that's a great product. I'm using that product personally, but I haven't been able to launch it and really get some significance. I sold some of it, of course, because Amazon, you can sell whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's not really, I didn't get the volume I wanted. I could not create, a community around that product. That's really way beyond my pay grade. That was a failure, and a realization I was limited into what I could do. And essentially that new brand, that secondary brand, but new brand, and that product took essentially, like a year and a half of my life. I can't show anything for it. It's a lot of work for nothing. And thanks God, I had the other main brand with those evergreen products that kept on growing by themselves without me doing anything. That was actually, back again to the first question, that was the lucky that I could launch in Europe. Everything was running by itself, and that saved me essentially. Because the last 2 years and a half was a lot of work for not much.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. You mentioned that marketing isn't really a strong point for you. Are you doing anything in terms of PPC or listing description SEO?
No, nothing. Yeah, that's the PPC is the big, I think is also the big opportunity for the business. The only PPC I'm doing is for cross-selling. So for example, I have accessories that fit other product I'm selling. So I'm cross-selling those items on the main SKUs, but that's the only use I do of my PPC. I don't, target competitors. I don't do any PPC, especially on the main selling items, because I got burnt early on 2016. I was playing with PPC and it cost me a lot of money, and I decided that was not for me, so I gave up. And right now, that's probably the biggest opportunity. There's no PPC whatsoever.
Yeah, following on from that point, you mentioned that's a big opportunity for sellers. What would you identify as other major growth opportunities that a buyer could experience with this business?
Right. I think there's two types of opportunities, like a couple of them that short term and the other ones that more medium term, like 6 months, maybe a year time frame. Short term is what you just talked about, the PPC. That's probably the best opportunity, the easiest for sure. Someone that knows about it. You have as you said, I have 12 SKUs, but essentially there's one SKU that sells, most of the 75% of the profit come from that main SKU. So that's the big item. And that item doesn't have any PPC. So that's the big opportunity. That same item, I would call that automatic opportunity, in the sense like right now shipping costs are crazy. And for that item, which is quite a big item, now they are 50% of the cost. Essentially, when you buy the item, you buy shipping, not even the item itself. So right now shipping costs start to go down. So any buyer, just keep on doing whatever we are doing now, nothing even touching, will already have their margin increasing mechanically because of shipping costs going down. So that would be, like another opportunity just by keep on selling normally, nothing special. The other short term, I would say improving listing qualities. The listings are at least 3 years old. Many of them have just the pictures, not even text, and none of them have videos. I have no videos on any of my listings. So, and no A+ content, so I don't have A+ content. So it's very bare minimum kind of listing. So someone that has a bit of a skill or a team of graphic designers that could definitely boost up those listings and improve conversion. So that would be the short term. On the more medium term, like 6 months, a year. So I would say that medium term, like in a 6 month to a year time frame, there is first, obviously, the first one would be the patented product that I developed, but that would be more like not directly on Amazon, but maybe using influencers or Facebook groups, like outside Amazon marketing, because that product is unusual. It's a new product. It's not a design patent, by the way. It's a utility patent. That's the real one, not the Playmobil one, not the funky one. It's the real, that's, 20 years of monopoly and so on. But so it's unusual. It's very hard to launch new product on Amazon. So you have to do the old-fashioned way, reaching to influencers and so on. So that would be the patented product, would be the medium-term opportunity. The other one would be geographic expansion, like Mexico, Canada, and Australia. Those markets are good fitters for the products we're selling. I never did it because I'm lazy, pretty much. I didn't want to bother, so I didn't do it. And also re-enter the US market for the main item. Right now, I'm not selling the main item in the US. I'm selling it only in Europe. But maybe if the person, for example, a buyer that's American buyer, because I don't have any partnership, no logistics company in the US, there's a lot of cost I'm having that, maybe a local US buyers would not have, and will make the product much more cost effective. So that could be an option for, I would say, specifically for a US buyer. Then I would say also non-Amazon sales channel development, like Google or Facebook, for example. So the business has been selling since 2016. We have 65,000 name and addresses of customers that we can use for targeting, for example, on Facebook. So that's a big, massive list of people that we can retarget, or at least create lookalike audience on Facebook for generating traffic. That would be another option. And there is also one product of that main brand that stopped. I discontinued because I didn't have cash to really reinvest in it. But it's a good product, has 45% margin, interesting. And someone that has enough cash could definitely relaunch it and do PPC, actually, because I never did PPC on this one. And it's a good product. On 2020, I think it profited $7,000. But right now it's included, but it's not counted as a profit because I stopped selling it. So it will be essentially a free product that you have on the table. You could do whatever we want with it. And I would say also there is the secondary brand that's inside my Amazon account that's not included in the sale because we didn't count it. But that could be, maybe if someone is interested, I could consider maybe including it. That's part of the negotiation maybe later on.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like there's a lot of potential with the business, which I think certainly piqued the interest of a lot of buyers. You mentioned that your shipping costs are quite expensive at the moment. Can you walk me through what your supply chain looks like and the countries that you sell in?
Yeah, right. So we sell in the US and Europe, so UK, because as everybody knows, UK is not Europe. It's 30 kilometers away from France, but it's not Europe. Anyway, France, Spain, and Italy, Germany, Netherlands, and I think that's it. So that's 7. Poland also, but those are small. The main market in Europe is UK, France, Italy, Germany. That's really the main markets. One supplier in China. We have supplier in Taiwan and supplier in Europe also, which is also an interesting point, I think, because I try to diversify the supply chain. So the main item, for example, can be manufactured in Europe or in China. So right now I have a kind of a hybrid solution where I have a variation of the product where the high quality is made in Europe and the not lower quality, but maybe less accessories, more is made in China. But when we had issues with shipping back, with the COVID and all that, I switched to the 100% supplied from Europe. So I said that gave some flexibility in there for the supply chain. Because the main item is a big voluminous item, I mostly ship by sea. Plus also for the cost, especially now the shipping costs are crazy. So I ship everything by ocean. From time to time, I ship by air when I have a gap, like if I'm out of stock, I ship a couple of boxes to make sure there is no gap, in the supply chain. But that's really just punctual. It's not my strategy. My strategy is to ship by sea for all the items. I have third-party logistics suppliers, contractors, warehouses, essentially. In the US, I have one in the UK and one in Germany. And I ship them my goods. And I essentially use them as feeders for Amazon. So I trickle my inventory to Amazon when it's needed. Usually I try to keep, when my inventory goes down to 4 to 5 weeks at Amazon, I ship a couple more boxes. So I try to keep a minimum inventory at Amazon, which means that essentially the Amazon inventory limits is no problem for me anymore. I don't care about the limits Amazon puts in inventory because I have those partners in US, UK, and Germany. I've been working with them for many years now. And at least there's personal opinion, Amazon shot themselves in the foot by putting those crazy restrictions on sellers. Actually, that's what happened in the US. The US, they had inventory limit at 400 and they pushed it back again to 500. That's testament that they realized that, wow, they're pushing themselves out of the business of storage. And that's what's happening. I'm not going to put inventory at Amazon anymore, just the minimum I need to sell. And that's what's happening. Every week I check my inventory and I send more if I see there's a bit less than 5 weeks supply. And for the lead time for supply now, Shipping is complicated. So I count 4 months lead time for my product, 4 to 6 months, to make sure that I have enough margin, and essentially send 2 orders per year for the main item and once a year for the other items. At the end, I reduce the amount of reorders. So I do more, but less often to make it easier and simpler. And right now, regarding inventory, essentially, we're going to have enough inventory until the end of the year. So the new buyer won't have to worry much before end Christmas, essentially.
Certainly sounds like you've got a good system in place there, that you've already thought it through, as you say, just to preempt these inventory problems. Do you use any 3PL warehouses to store overflow inventory, or is that all stored at the manufacturer?
No, I don't store at the manufacturer. Everything is essentially within Amazon marketplaces, in a sense. Like I have my third-party warehouse in the US, in California. I have another one in the UK, another one in Germany. Those are the ones holding my goods, actually. Amazon has a very small percentage of the goods now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And how often would you say that you're in contact with your suppliers?
I would say that essentially for the main item, I'm reordering twice a year right now because of the shipping, it's complicated. So I just send 2 big orders per year. So right now the first order has been done. So that's why supply is good until Christmas. And I will probably send another one around May or something like that. And that's for the main item. For the other items is once a year. I just order once a year and that's it. So I contact my supplier once a year for the smaller items and twice for the big item.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, at least there's not too much back and forth going on there. What does a typical work week look like for you in running this business? How many hours do you spend on the business on an average week?
Actually, I'm a bit of a geek of tracking. So I have an app tracking working hours. And I measured it at 10 hours per week, roughly 10 hours per week. I was surprised. I said, that's weird because that's making a living income only with 10 hours per week. That's kind of feels always weird. But yeah, that's what it is. So most of the time I'm spending between accounting and inventory. I would say 4 hours per week on accounting, 2 hours on customer support, and 4 hours on inventory. The forecast for the cash flow, I see if my cash flow is good, if I will have any gap in the coming weeks. Some bookkeeping, and I do my own bookkeeping. I had a bookkeeper and I realized they were doing very little. So I decided to do it on my own. And a bit of the VAT. I file my VAT in France and in the UK. There's not much work. I do that in 10 minutes for both of them, so it's very quick. And also, we're reconciling the transaction from Amazon to make sure everything is there square. There's nothing missing. So that's for the accounting, 4 hours per week, more or less. And inventory. So inventory, I'm tracking, like if I have enough. Like I told you, like Amazon has very little amount of inventory now. So every week I'm checking, okay, where the volume of sale for the last couple of weeks. Okay, do I have enough for next month? If it's not enough, then I send another month extra of inventory to Amazon. That's what I'm doing. And then, of course, the new purchase order and when it's needed, but that's essentially not that often because I order once a year or twice a year, depending on the product. And lastly, customer support. I think customer support is interesting because it went down like over time. I have many less customer contact now than I had, let's say, 2 years ago. I think Amazon must have changed something because now I don't spend 2 hours a week on customer support. But anyway, I would say 2 hours just to round the numbers, but I have very few interaction with customers now. It's very surprising, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like you've managed to streamline these processes very well and you're anticipating problems well in advance. What would you say are the biggest challenges that a buyer might experience once they've taken over this business?
If the new buyer doesn't have marketing, like if the new buyer is essentially me, it's not like they're going to have any challenges, just they are not going to grow the business much further. Like if they don't have PPC skill or marketing skill, they are going to get the business where it is, which is good, but they're not going to, I think, able to grow it. Like really, you need to get those skills like marketing and PPC to be able to push it further. I would say a false risk is selling in Europe. I think a lot of people are scared of selling in Europe, which I'm not too sure why, because the language is not a problem. You have a lot of software translation are very, very good. That I have no problem. I speak French and Spanish, but I don't speak German. I don't speak Italian. And, I have never had any issue. So the language is not a problem. The VAT is not a problem. I mean, maybe the VAT side is having a company that can help you with the VAT. That the VAT in itself, if you don't have a company like for Germany or countries where, it's a bit more complicated. So the VAT part could be the only challenge I could see for someone that, that comes from zero, essentially, because usually companies that sell in Europe already have the VAT figured out. But someone that doesn't have that figured out, you would just have to hire a company for it. I can give advice and recommendations on that. So the VAT would be the only thing. And I can even teach them how to do it in the UK and in France, actually. That's very easy. So the only one would be that. So the VAT maybe potentially if they don't have already a service provider, but that's just finding one essentially. And the marketing skills and the PPC, that's the other one, which I think that should be someone should know about those things because that's how they will grow the business.
Yeah, that's a great point. And following on from what you said about teaching the buyers, how much support are you willing to offer the buyer to help ease the transition?
I think that support is important. I saw like some selling contract support felt like was quite limited. I want the business to survive and to thrive. I want to be able to buy from the business in 5 or 10 years time. So I see two parts of the support. I see what I call the immediate handover, which is essentially the 30 days after the sale is complete. I see the first 2 weeks, I would provide like 10 hours a week support. So, the first week will be 10 hours a week, the second week will be 10 hours a week. That will allow me to still handle and manage the business while at the same time train the buyer, like kind of over the shoulder training, like we're together, I'm doing the thing, they see how I do it. And we'll do that the first 2 weeks. And then the following 2 weeks, they will do it and I will be, behind them, looking if they do it properly or asking me questions, I think the interaction will be through email and pretty much I'm happy to do phone calls actually. I think phone calls are much easier, faster, but I'm happy to do email, of course. So that will be the first part. The first 30 days are critical for the proper handover. So first 2 weeks of those 30 days will be I handle the business still, I explain how it works, and then the last 2 weeks will be they do it, but I check how they do it. And then I would say another part which be I call the continuity kind of support. That would be, for me, it's a period that would be 5 months after the handover, so 6 months from the sale. So for 5 months, I'm willing to give, 2 hours per month, phone call or email as they prefer, for questions like, I have that supplier, they're telling me that for that purchase order, what should I do? Or if a strategy, I think of launching that new product, what do you think? That also, I'm happy to help, So I will at least reachable and be able to interact with for 6 months after the sale.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that sounds very comprehensive, and I think that's definitely going to help set the buyer up for success. When it comes to negotiating the actual sale of the business, would you be open to negotiating something like an earn-out?
Yes, actually, even earn-out, I see it. It's a good way also for the buyer, to keep me interested also and kind of engage, with them. So I'm absolutely open with earn-out. And of course, it depends on the percentage of the earn-out, obviously.
Yeah. And would you commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yeah, depends, of course, how broad is the non-compete, but I would say non-compete with the business or the products I'm selling, or even the niche itself. I would say I don't have any direct intention of selling on Amazon. I'm not planning on competing directly on Amazon, but, maybe in 1 or 2 years, I may sell on Amazon. So non-compete on the business, on what the business is currently selling, yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, Gerald, that leads us into the final question of the interview, and probably the most important one. If you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
That's the $10,000 question. What COVID showed us is that Amazon was actually a robust business. It's very funny because for the longest time, I was trying to get loans from banks. It's funny, but sad to be honest. I was trying to get loans. Impossible to get loans. I'm selling in Europe and the US, and the bank said, but where is your inventory? Well, it's in Europe. We can give you a loan because you don't have any presence here. You don't have any inventory. We can't give you any loan. And then what happened is, like I see on my street where they have commerce, and that 30% of them are shut down. All those businesses that could have been eligible for a loan, they shut down because they didn't last COVID. And I'm still around, right? So the reality is that the Amazon and e-commerce, generally, the Amazon business is very robust. And in the case of my business, it's actually in a niche that I call it evergreen. It's not a fad. It's a product that people have been using for decades or some even 100 years. Actually, it's a very old product. And, there is no electronic, there's no mechanical part. It's a very simple product. In that sense, I see it as quite robust. And COVID actually has been approved because we improved sales during COVID. And also because we have essentially minimum fixed cost. Not having a rent, not having employees, that makes you very robust. I think that's the main aspect. And for example, with the profits been growing 15% a year for the last 4 years. Even COVID, no COVID didn't change anything. So the robustness of the business is the first, I think, element. The other thing is the fact that we discussed before is the fact that I try also to make the business more resilient by diversifying the supply chain. So now I have my main selling item is I can supply it from China or Europe, which, I used that option actually recently when I saw that the shipping from China was essentially blocked. So I decided to supply half of my items from Europe. And that saved my neck essentially. So that's diversification is, I think, important. and attractive. I think for me, I'm very happy I did it, to be honest. And the other thing is I'm selling the Amazon account, my Amazon account, 5 years old, and they are both of them in Europe and the US, both of them 5.9 stars. So very highly quality and curated Amazon account, which I think is quite valuable. All the products I'm selling are 5 stars, and the reviews been white hat. I never did any, I would say, gray or black hat techniques, because from the beginning I was trying to build a business that could sell in the future. I was really trying to build an asset, so I really was going. That's, took time to build it, actually. That's why it maybe didn't grow as fast as others. But I had friends that were doing things not very, you could not be proud of. So that, my business is clean. All the reviews are clean. And I think that's it also desirable. And it's also easy to manage. I mean, we have 12 SKUs, but mostly in Europe is 6 SKUs and one big item that provides 75% of the profits. So that makes it quite easy to manage, to be honest. And as I said, there's no mechanical part, no electronics. So there's no, worry about regulations or anything like that. And the last thing I think that could make it interesting is that essentially free opportunity, that the patented product is not included in the P&L, because essentially I didn't sell much, didn't make much profit. So when you buy the business, you get that patented product for free because it doesn't contribute to the profit and losses. So I think it's a blank page that, someone that's skilled marketer could definitely, I believe in the product. I use that product all the time. And I think, a skilled marketer could do something out of it, and you get it for free. So I think that's another interesting aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of strong selling points there, and this certainly sounds like a great asset. Gerald, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners that I might have missed?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. But we have, I think, the Q&A and the messaging system on Power Flippers that we can use. If they have any question, I'm here, I'm available. So please do not hesitate to reach out and ask any questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show and giving us some insight into you and your business. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. I've certainly learned a lot. I hope our listeners have as well. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Well, the pleasure was mine, Lauren. Thank you very much for having me again.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 60243. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.